Okay.
My name is Stephen Hartley, also known as Kitty Litter, the self-proclaimed First Lady of Providence, which I gave myself that name when David Cicilline first ran for mayor. Um, I have been involved with Pride, with Youth Pride, with Sojourner House, with AIDS Care Ocean State, with AIDS Project Rhode Island. I was on the board of Marriage Equality. And I'm sure there's some others that I'm totally forgetting and people are going to be mad at me. Oh, and I'm a past emperor of the Imperial Court of Rhode
Oh, wow. I didn't know that one.
Island.
Can-
Back in before I started doing drag, so many years ago, I was the third emperor of Rhode Island.
Very cool.
And my 25th anniversary was supposed to be this year, but it got canceled because of the pandemic. But I will be back next year to do my 25-year walk.
Cool. Very cool. Can you talk about how Miss Kitty Litter came about?
So it came about because of the Imperial Court of Rhode Island. I used to MC drag shows, but in a tuxedo as a boy. And I always had a quick wit about me. And so I would be the MC and call the drag queens out and banter with the audience in between. And then one night someone was sick. And so they only had 2 or 3 drag queens and really wanted 4. They had sold tickets to a show at Chan's in Woonsocket. It was a dinner show. I was put in drag, and I had such a good time that was the beginning of. And I wasn't Kitty Litter the first night I did it. It was either Jill or Jan or just a name. And I was trying to think of a name, how to become to get a drag name. And it's funny because the first time I did drag was Chance, and then like 3 days later, it was the flag raising at City Hall. Buddy Cianci was the mayor. And we were going to go to the flag raising. And I said, well, I'm going to put on a dress then. And I had picked up the wig that I had worn, but it was on the bathroom. I must have come home after a few belts and thrown it on the floor. Well, I had a little cat litter in it from the cat box. And someone kept saying Kitty Litters, like I was Kitty Litters, like I was up on the platform, and they're like Kitty Litter. And I'm like, oh, my new name is Kitty Litter, just so everyone knows. I said on a microphone. And I got off the stage and the person said, no, you jackass, you have cat litter in your hair. So, but it stuck. I had made an announcement and it stayed ever since. So, that's how that name came about.
That's great. How about Options? You were with Options for a while too, right?
I never was on the board of Options. I volunteered for Options. I always I had a route where I dropped off Options. This is before they even started mailing them. This was way back when. Oh God, I can't remember. Sally Hay, I think, might have been the editor then. Who's the other girl there? I'm drawing a blank on her name. That was well, anyway. Yeah, we used to just have drop-off centers. We didn't mail them. And so I had a route. So I volunteered for them and dropped them out at the route. It was the Castro was part of my route way back in the day. And I would always, every so often, write articles for them or whatever they needed, basically. When they had a fundraiser, I would help them out. And I disappeared for a long time. They didn't need me not they didn't need me, but they had new young blood come in. And then Kyle McKendall took over Options for a while, and he kind of dragged me back in and asked me to help them do a big fundraiser in Newport, and I did that. And then they did some articles on me. And then it turned to a color magazine, and I was quite flattered that I think I was the first or second cover on the cover.
Cool.
So yeah, that was cool.
Very cool. What else? Who else were you? Oh, Pride. I guess we should talk about Pride, how you're affiliated with Pride.
Well, Pride started, I always admired Rodney P. Davis. I would always see Rodney speak at Pride long before, he was always like the voice of Pride, I would call him, because he would always articulate himself so well. So one day I just went up to him and I said, I think you're great. And I think, and he says, well, I'm on the Pride board and we're looking for members. Would you like to join? And that was it. And I was on Pride for a long time, I think 10 years. And I was the treasurer for 8 years. Rodney was the president, and then he was co-president with Alex Gorriaron. And that was a time when we really transformed Pride, and I'm quite proud of that. I'm quite proud of what Rodney, me, and Alex did, and there was Bill and John Frazino and a bunch of others, but we really transformed Pride into more of, I think, a celebration than a rally. When Pride first started, it was to get gay rights, and as things changed, we were getting more rights and stuff. So we really turned it more from, a political rally to a celebration. And that's when the nighttime parade came about. And then we had the festival during the day, ending with the nighttime parade. Then all the block parties started happening in downtown. And it really incorporated the gay and the straight community because people saw what fun that was. And then they started coming down. So it started out with it was all gay people and a few allies and would come to being, I'll never forget the second year we had the nighttime parade and we had a block party and I was standing on the stage at the Dock Lady emceeing and I looked out and I said to myself, there is more than 50% straight people here. And I said, we have done what we set out to do, is to integrate gay and straight people and show everyone that we're all the same. And that was what the goal was, why we wanted to do that. And we did. And I think after the fifth nighttime parade is when I stepped down off the board. Maybe the sixth, I don't remember. I'm senile.
Not yet.
But I mean, Rodney and Alex, I know Rodney's still somewhat involved with Pride, not a lot, but he stepped back. But I mean, people got to remember, Rodney Davis and Alex Gorion and myself, we gave thousands and thousands of hours. Like for Rodney, it was like a full-time job for him. Plus he worked full-time. Same thing with Alex, myself. We just gave so much time to build Pride up. And, and we succeeded in what we set out to do. And then that was time to pass it on to the younger people.
So I'm just learning how, so the 76 parade was maybe 80, 100 people. I didn't realize it dwindled down for a little while and then started building back up. Can you talk about that?
Well, I wasn't around in the 76 one, just so you know, I'm not that old. But Belle Pellegrino and I were friends and she would tell me all about it, and so it did. Well, it was, they had really organized themselves to try and get gay rights in 1976. So they had the big parade, bicentennial year. And then I think like the next year they still had like a rally. I don't even think they had a parade. I think they had a rally. And then it slowly dwindled. And then David Abbott, this is a name, I don't know if it's come up in any of these interviews, but David Abbott, to me, rejuvenated Pride and made it that more people knew about it and it became more visible. And that was probably about 1980. My first Pride I went to was 1980, and David Abbott, I think, was the head of Pride then. And he was instrumental in getting young people involved in Pride. And that's what really rejuvenated, was the young people. And I will be honest with you, what probably also helped it is in 1982, the AIDS epidemic came around, and the only people helping people with AIDS was the gay community. And I think that rally, that encouraged people to come to Pride because they could march at Pride, like groups like ACT UP could march at Pride, and groups like Rhode Island Project AIDS could march at Pride and get their message out there. Where else would they weren't going to be allowed to march in the Bristol 4th of July parade, or so they could come to Pride and march. And I think that really got people to come to Pride, because they wanted to get their message out about, HIV and AIDS.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the first night parade?
Oh, the first nighttime parade. Oh, it was magical. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work to convince the bar owners because they thought that no one would come downtown during the day. They'd do the parade and they'd just go home. Where the bar business did well on Pride Day because Pride Parade was at 10, the rally was at noon, ended at 2, and then everybody would go out for a couple of drinks and then go home. So they all did well on Pride Day, and then by Pride night there was nobody in the bars. Well, 2 of the bigger bars would have big parties, but we convinced them after we said, give us 1 year to do this. And then it just had a whole different vibe. It turned from, being more of a political parade to being a fun parade. Floats were lit up. We had a band in the parade. It was the first time we ever had a band in the parade. And more people got involved. And I think for 2 reasons. it was at night, so people were out of work. You know, if you think about it, on a Saturday, you're having your parade Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. LGBT people as a whole, a lot of them work in retail, hairdressing, restaurant, and everything. So you can't get out of work. So I think the change tonight drew a lot more people because they had the time and they could come down and see the parade. And a lot more companies got involved because employees could be in it because they were closed, and they could build a float and it could be lit up at night. And yeah, it was fun. And I don't think the first year, I don't think we had our reviewing stand at the Providence Performing Arts Center. I don't think so. I think we had to convince them too to let us have it, you know, in front of PPAC. I mean, it was a different time. You know, it wasn't hip to be gay like it is now. I mean, you know, you didn't have shows like Will and Grace and all that on there. The closest thing you had to a gay character on TV was Soap. You know, there was a gay character on Soap. It was a nighttime TV drama.
Can you talk about your involvement with the AIDS epidemic?
Oh, sure. So in 1982 is the first time I heard the word. It wasn't called AIDS then. I can't remember what it was called, to be honest with you, but it was gay men were getting sick and dying. And I remember specifically every being petrified that every night before I got in the shower, I would check myself to see if I had a black mark on me. And then slowly but surely, my friends were all getting sick and dying. I mean, in the 1982, from 1982, by 1985, when I came out, I had a small group of friends. I would say 15 of us. I met in the bars and stuff, and we became really close. So that was 1982. By 1990, I was the only one left. Everyone else had died. So I was infuriated that nothing was being done, that they were dying. I remember going to the hospital, and they were put in like the old part of the hospital. And you know, people were afraid to go down that wing of the hospital. And it was just weird. It was just weird. And then finally, the last straw was my best friend died. And that was it. And so I insisted that I was going to raise, this was me, I'm going to raise enough money to find a cure. That was me. I was going to raise enough money to find a cure. So we had fundraisers, and we would do, you know, best thing to, you know, all the drag queens raised so much money for the AIDS epidemic when no one else wanted to. It was the drag queens that kept House of Compassion open. It was the drag queens that would do the Dining for Friends for AIDS Project Rhode Island. And then I took over Gay Bingo. I was working at Rhode Island Hospital at the time, and I took over Gay Bingo from Aurora Borealis, and we grew that to be a phenomenal event, and it was bringing in a lot of money for AIDS Project Rhode Island. And then I took a job as the development director at AIDS Care Ocean State, and we continued Bingo. And I thought by now I would be dead, because I found out I was HIV positive, oh Christ, 30-something years ago now. And I just said, you know, if I wasn't so, I didn't care so much about my nephew, I would have crashed in my life insurance policies like all my other friends were doing. They had life insurance policies. Back then, in the back of Options or any gay publication, there was always big ads for sell your life insurance policy for money now. And you could sell them your life insurance policy. So say you had a $100,000 life insurance policy, they would buy it for $10,000. And then when you died, they were the beneficiary at that point. That was a big thing. They did that to a lot. But I never did that. It's a damn good thing I didn't cash in all my 401ks and everything, because now here I am in my late 50s and everything's fine. Everything's, you know, so. So then when I got diagnosed too is when I really went. Anytime there was a fundraiser or anything, I would help, and then I decided I should work in the field. So that's my Care Ocean State.
Good, awesome. I missed a group? I feel like I missed like 3 groups. What other groups were you involved?
There was Marriage Equality Rhode Island.
Okay.
I was on the board of Marriage Equality Rhode Island with Frank Ferry, talked me into being the board there, and I was more. All these organizations that I was involved in, I was the person they would bring in to raise money for them. So like we started Marriage Equality Rhode Island, we had no money. So we had some fundraisers, drag shows, whatever, raise money. then and it was quick. I mean, marriage equality in Rhode Island, I think, was only 3 years, and then we got marriage equality here in Rhode Island. And then who would have known very shortly after that that Barack Obama would, make it the law of the land, So I remember we got marriage equality in Rhode Island, and then it was like a year later, I think. I'm bad with time. So shortly after, not too long after, it was Governor Chafee at the time signed it. And I'll never forget this too. I had a lot to do with getting it passed, as well as a lot of people did. And so they were going to do a big signing on the State House steps. And Frank Ferry called me and said, Kitty, we really want you on the State House steps. And I said, Frank, no. I said, first of all, people associate, not me, not Stephen Hartley, but Kitty Litter being on the board of marriage equality. I said, there was going to be a big party after the signing at the Strand. I said, what I will do is I will be at the door of the Strand to let everybody in. And he goes, well, how come you won't come to the State House? I said, because you know what's going to happen? If I'm on the State House steps with the governor, those cameras aren't going to be capturing what he's doing. That camera is going to go right to the freak, the drag queen, because that's what happened. And if you think about all the Pride footage that you see, it's always of the drag queen or the leather guys, or you very rarely see when they talk about Pride, none of those people being in it. They should be having the P flag, and they should be having the people from Sage. They should be having all those people. No, they always go show the drag queens and the guys scantily dressed. So I said, no, I'm not going to take away from this day. You all go, and I will greet everybody at the Strand, which is exactly what I did. And that was probably one of the proudest days in all my activism, was the day that got signed, only second to the day that the State House, the White House was lit up in the rainbow colors.
Cool.
It's funny because I had was engaged, and we had set our wedding date. Me and my husband had set our wedding date, and I knew it was going to be voted on. I just knew it was going to pass for whatever reason. So I said, we're going to book the date, and if it doesn't pass, at least we can still get married in Rhode Island. But we got married 4 days after it passed here, and everyone thought, oh my God, look at you. I said, do you think that we just planned this whole huge wedding in 4 days? I said, this has been planned for a year.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a story about how you met your husband?
Oh my God, it's not glamorous at all. I met my husband in a bar. I was a drag queen. I met my husband at Club Hell, which had a alternative night on Wednesday nights, and I was the hostess. And my friend Ladiva was the bartender. Ladiva Jones was the bartender. And he came in 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And one night I just said to Ladiva, give him a few drinks because I'm going to talk to him afterwards and ask about it on a date. And he needs to be a little lick it up. And my husband had been married. He had just come out, and he had been married. And I swore I would never date anybody with children. And he had a kid. He had a child. And I was the first gay person he ever dated. And now we've been married. 7 years, 6 years, together 15 years. So.
Awesome. Very cool. Can you talk about the bar scenes a little bit as you've seen them over the years?
Oh, sure. I mean, I never forget this. When I first came out, you would park your car downtown. And you would try and park it so that no one would see where your car was, because I was always afraid. I had an older brother, and I hadn't come out to my parents. And I had an older brother, and he would go to the rock and roll clubs, like at Lupo's, I think, was downtown. I would always try and hide the car so that my brother wouldn't see it, because he'd be like, where were you? I didn't see you. But you would park, and then you would dash to the corner of Weybosset Street, because the bars downtown then were the Fife and Drum and La Boheme, which was below it. And then on the side alley was the Mirror Bar. Those were the 3 bars downtown. And then there was the Carnival, like 3 streets over. But you would wait on the corner in the alleyway, and it was the outlet company then. You would wait in the corner of the outlet company, and when the light changed and you could cross the street, you would dart across the street and down the alley. And, you were afraid of 2 things, being seen, really, or, getting a bottle thrown at you or something. So, and then as time came, the late 80s, more gay bars open. You had like Pulse open, which was a huge nightclub in downtown with a big parking lot. That was, a big parking lot with a big sign in rainbow colors, Pulse nightclub. And then the Loft in Smithfield was there. That was there long before. That was there, I think, in the early 80s of the Loft. But I don't think everyone knew it was a gay bar. People thought it was a private country club, the Loft. I had a swimming pool and everything, so people thought it was a private country club, but it was a big gay bar. That's the first job I had in a gay bar, was at Loft. That was a cocktail wait. But then as times changed, more and more gay bars opened, and they were opening on Main Street. So you had Wheels opened. It was called Blinky's, then Wheels, and now it's the Stable in downtown Providence. But they had, when Wheels closed and they reopened as the Stable, it was full glass, not shaded glass, full glass you could see into gay bar. And then the Dock Lady moved from up the street down to where they are now. And they had windows where people could see in. And I always remembered a gay bar was always dark. You could never see outside at a gay bar because there were no windows, or if there were windows, they were painted over. And then now all of a sudden, we are just like everybody else. And, I worked as a bartender for many years in a lot of the bars, and it was fun to see the transition of, they used to always be gay bars. There was just gay people went to them, and it would transition to now it was friends of gay people were coming in, and to what it is now, where it's an everything bar. Yeah, it's owned by a gay person, and it's primarily catered to the gay clientele, but everyone's welcome. It's so different. They're not seedy. Gay bars were always seen as a little seedy, but now they're just like every other, a neighborhood pub. I look at them all as neighborhood pubs now. Anybody can come in, and everyone does. I mean, I saw that working at the Stable downtown. I mean, we would get people that just popped in, and I'd say, "Oh, what brings you?" And they said, "Oh, it looked like it was fun. It looked like you were having fun in here." And it would be straight people. They had to visit their kids at Providence College or Brown. It was really fun.
Very cool. Well, that brings me to my next question. If you were to give advice to a younger LGBT person right now, what would you tell them?
Right now, see, it's so much easier now because there's so many role models that they can look to. There's so many books they can read. There's so much that they can find on the internet. I mean, just looking from when I came out to now, how it's so much easier to come out now. Let's face it. I mean, you got gay is everywhere. Let's face it, gay is everywhere. It's chic to be gay now, But the advice I would be is just always be true to yourself. Don't try to change yourself to fit into a group, which, I mean, I found myself doing when I first came out. I wanted to be, there was the cliques. And it's the same way. It's going to be the same way till the end of time. There's always these groups of people. Don't change yourself to fit into a group of people. Find the group that you fit into, rather than trying to fit into a group. Find the group you fit in. That's the advice that I would give. And if you're going to be a drag queen, always wear fingernails.
Very cool. Cool. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I mean, I'm glad that I've been involved with many different, projects of people that have been doing it for the LGBT community, for the history of it. There was somebody from URI, Stephen, I can't remember his last name. He did a whole history of gay pride in Rhode Island, and I gave him one of my gowns, and I don't know where all that stuff is, but he has archives of it. Like, he got a gown from me and some jewelry and some other stuff, and I know other drag queens gave him stuff, and every so often it's displayed at URI. I don't know where. It was during Pride, a couple of Prides, they would display it in the window at URI downtown and stuff. But I'm happy to be able to still be here to tell it strikes me as odd that I can't believe, like, I'm considered one of the elders now in the LGBT community. I mean, it really does, because when I first started getting involved, I was 18 years old. And now I look back at, back then there weren't a lot of people that you could talk to, because either somebody would start something, like, I often wondered, like, whatever happened to David Abbott? He was really an outspoken activist for so many years. And I know he's still in Rhode Island. I think he's selling real estate. But, you know, I think people get burnt out. I never got burnt out. I'm still doing it here. I swore up and down when I moved to North Carolina, I was not doing drag. I was done with drag. I gave all my drag away. Yeah, I'm doing drag. I do a TV show now, a video show now every other Friday. I do the gay bingo here in Greensboro. You know, I guess I missed it. And I'm on the Pride board here in Greensboro. I'm on the board here for the Triad Pride Performing Arts, which is our gay chorus and theater group. So I think it's instilled in you. If people are either want to be involved or they just want to be on the sidelines. And there's nothing wrong with being on the sidelines, nothing at all. I think it has to be inside you to want to be involved with nonprofits. I mean, you know, because my friends say to me all the time, I'm like, why don't you join the board? No, it's just not me. And I understand that. Okay, that's great. At least I asked you, you know. So, yeah. But I'm glad that the history of it will be. I hope that you interviewed Rodney Davis.
Not yet.
Oh, you need to interview Rodney Davis and Alex Gorieron.
Okay, and Alex.
Gorieron.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's still on the Pride. He still may be on the Pride board, Alex. He was the youngin. We called him the youngin because he was much younger than us. But I mean, he's not young now. If you're watching this, Alex, but you definitely have to interview Rodney Davis because to me, he will have everything. His brain is like a vault that goes in and all the information stays there. Me, I cannot remember dates, times, or he'll remember the time, the date, the year, everything. But he was really instrumental in changing Pride. I mean, so he was president of Pride for over 15 years, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So Rodney Davis is definitely somebody that you need to interview. I mean, I'm known in Rhode Island because I'm the oldest living drag queen in there. So, you know, the only person that's doing, you know, you got BB Hayes, Ladiva Jones, and myself, and Jackie Collins have been doing drag the longest, you know. So, but I think the reason my name comes up a lot of the times is because I was always involved with the nonprofit on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I still come in and do the Sojourner House event every year.
Oh, cool.
Sojourner House is they help battered women's, they have a battered women's shelter and immigration. They do a lot with immigration. And I started doing the event when I was there, and every year they asked me to come back and host their event. So I come back for that, and I'm always back for Pride. And it's fun to come back and see that Rhode Island is still moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, thank you so much. You're so appreciated.
Hey, listen, no problem at all. If you ever need any answers to any other questions, you have my email. Feel free to reach out.
I do. Thank you.
But really get a hold of Rodney Davis because I think if you're trying to do a history of Pride, Rodney's the person.
I will
and
find
Sally
him.
Hayes. Have you talked to Sally?
Yes,
Yeah.
I know she's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, Sally and Rodney have been around about the same amount of time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, Rodney Davis definitely, because I know he's not really involved in anything anymore. I think got burnt out, but he's going to be a wealth of knowledge.
Okay.
You know, he'll be more apt to tell you when Pride really picked up and all that stuff. So.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
It was nice chatting.
You've done.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.